Hi there. Welcome to You Can Paint. This is the program that's dedicated to total relaxation and stress relief through oil painting, even if you've never touched a brush to canvas before. All you need is the desire. We'll provide you with the technique, because you can paint. Come on down here to the palette and let's take a look at the colors that we're going to use today. Okay, what I've done is pull the colors down a little bit so you can maybe get a better view of what they look like. I'll put them up here with the white background and maybe you can see them a little better. We have the lighter colors here on the left-hand side, white of course, and then there's cadmium yellow, which is a rich orange yellow color. There's a deep red called alizarin crimson. Here is a deep green called sap green, a Van Dyke brown, a Prussian blue, which is a very strong blue, probably the strongest color on the palette, and of course there's black. These are the colors we're going to use today. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get started painting our landscape for today, and at the same time I'll bring you up to date and tell you everything that I've done to get our canvas ready for today's painting. I'll just begin by putting a little bit of that Prussian blue on the tip of a 2.5-inch brush, just a little bit there, and get started by putting in what later on we hope to look like a sky. Now, as you can see, I have a border, 2.5-inch border around the edge of the canvas. Now the canvas is a 20 by 24-inch canvas panel. As we go along in the series and do a few more programs, we'll use a stretched canvas and perhaps some other types of media, and we'll show you the different ways that you can paint on them. I'm using the X strokes to put in the sky, and you may already notice that there is a blue tint to the canvas, and that's because I have already painted on here before we started today a very thin coat of a white oil-based paint to be used as our undercoating. With that, I've mixed very, very small amount of blue paint, and I've done that for two reasons. Number one, so you could see it better on your screen, and number two, it's because it does tend to give a little bit of a blue tint to the objects in the landscape, and I think that gives it a more realistic look. Now, I don't exactly want the sky to be as even looking as a sky with no clouds would be. As a matter of fact, I'd like to have it just a little bit hazy, and perhaps with just a hint of some sort of cloudiness there in the background. As a matter of fact, I think what I'll do is take another brush, and this is a 1-inch brush, and put just a little bit of white paint in that on the tip there, and then maybe just try and mix in a few little spots up here where I would like to see the hint of some clouds. And then I'll come back with this 2-inch brush and kind of lightly stroke over that and just kind of give the impression of some cloudiness back there in the background. Put a little bit over here on the edge too. And now let's have some fun. Let's take a fan brush, and this is a fan brush, and let's load this up with some plain white paint and go up here to the canvas and kind of just let things happen. You can swirl this around and just let this fan brush do all the work for you. There's really not much of a method to this. This is kind of something where you just let it go. Just let it happen, and the paintbrush will do most of this for you. Let it go off the border there, off the canvas, and just let these little things resemble some white spots up there in the sky. Now load up this fan brush once again and put a few little swirls on some of them. And then come back with this 2-inch brush and very, very lightly go across it. Very lightly. Very, very lightly. And before you know it, you've got something up there which is going to resemble some clouds, a cloudy, misty background. Just let that kind of happen for you. Now, of course, the more you work this, the mistier it's going to get, and if you keep right on working it, you can just work those clouds right on into the sky, and it'll all be blue again. And that, of course, is good for you to know in the event you make some sort of a mistake and you feel you have to go back and start over. Now let's load up this 2-inch brush once again and go down here to the bottom portion of our picture, and starting from the outside of the canvas, work in toward the middle. Now, I mentioned to you before that I have a border around the edge. Now, the border is actually a pressure-sensitive plastic paper. And I've cut it into 2.5-inch strips, and I've applied it to the edge, all the way around the painting. Now, when we finish with this, we'll take that border off, and you'll be surprised at the effect that it will leave you. Now, I'm working from the sides of the painting in toward the middle. I want the darkest colors on the sides, on the edges. And the reason for that is because although our light source is going to be coming from the right-hand side, most of the light in the painting will probably be in the middle of the painting. So that light in the middle will provide some sort of a contrast here. Now, I'll just keep working this and working it and working it, and as I pull this color from the sides in toward the middle, I can fill up this white area, this lighter color, more and more. Now, you may notice that this has the appearance, maybe it has the appearance of being some waves. I don't know, maybe that looks like waves. If you are not happy with this wavy color here, or this wavy effect, then you can use your 2.5-inch brush and go up and down and make those waves kind of disappear and make them fade into the painting, and you get more of a blended color, and it will probably make your water have more of a still appearance. Now come back and work that color once again from the sides into the middle. Now, the fact that we are working on a wet undercoating makes this a wet technique. And you've probably heard of these wet techniques before. There are many of them, and we will experiment with some of the different techniques, the different wet techniques and dry techniques. We'll use an acrylic undercoating, a dry undercoating as a background for our painting. But whatever we use, it will be something that will be smooth and make the canvas receptive to the paint. It is very difficult to work these colors on a dry canvas. I had to learn that the hard way because it took me 30 or 40 canvases before I was able to get something that I actually liked. And I found that the wet techniques were certainly more desirable. They certainly make this more an easier medium to work with, and it's a lot easier for those of you who are doing this for the first time. Now let's go in the middle here and just blend this a little more. Now the more time you have to work with this and blend it, the more even your water will appear. You may also find that a lot of this doesn't matter much because, of course, we're going to have some things in the water, and this is a nice background. Let the water be a background for those objects that are going to be in the front of the picture, and you can just enjoy putting this on and just relax and enjoy oil painting when you do this. All right. Let's put that down, and let's put a mountain into our painting now. And we'll do that by mixing up a shadow color. Now the shadow color is going to be a combination of the Van Dyke brown, which I'm going to mix up here, the black, and this Prussian blue color. Now, I hope you can see the way this is mixing here. This is going to be what we call our shadow color. And this shadow color is going to be used both in the mountain, and we'll use it also in our trees and in our land area that we have in the foreground of the painting. So let's just take some of that mountain color and put it on the knife there, and get an idea where we want the mountain to be. Now, we don't want the mountain up here at the top of the picture, so get an idea that you want the mountain to be somewhere in the center, but maybe just a little bit above or the very middle of the picture. And then just let it happen. Let the mountain go in there, and it will go. And then we'll get a little bit more and make several peaks to your mountain. Now keep in mind that this is only the shadow color. This is the shadow color. So we just want to get that background darkness in there. Alright, now let's go back to our 1-inch brush, and what we're going to do now is we're going to smooth this all out, smooth this out. Why don't you come on up here to the canvas and take a good look at how we smooth this out. Now I think you can see some of the strokes where the knife, where we use the knife to apply the color. Let's take this 1-inch brush and just smooth this color out, because we really don't want it to be too thick. We don't want it to be too thick because we're going to apply some more paint on top of it, and we want that paint above it to stick. And it'll stick a little better if we have it nice and smooth. There, how's that? Now this part here on the bottom, we'll try and feed that in. We'll feed that into the water to give the impression of it being back in the distance. Take your 2-inch brush and use that to help blend it. Feed it all back into the distance there. Okay, now that we've done that, let's go back to the palette and mix up some colors that we're going to use for some snow on these mountains. Now, what we'll need is we'll need 2 colors. Well, first of all, we'll need white, and we've already got that right here. And then we'll need a kind of a shadow color for the snow. Now, of course, we don't want it to be quite as dark as that shadow color that's up there already, so we'll use kind of a bluish color, and I do that by just getting a little bit of this Prussian blue over here, putting it in the white, and then just mix that together. That'll be our shadow color on the mountains. So right now, let's take the white color, got a little bit of it on the knife here, just a little bit. You don't need much, just a little bit. And go up here and let's put some snow on these mountains. Now keep in mind that our light source is coming from the right. Usually for right-handed people, it's a little easier if your light source is coming from the right-hand side of your picture. Now, you'll have to keep in mind that when you apply this snow with your knife, you are just barely touching the canvas. In fact, I think I would like it if you would come up to the canvas and take a look at, a very close look at how the snow is applied. Just barely touching. And already we have the appearance, the illusion of snow coming with the light source coming from the right-hand side. Isn't that nice? Isn't that a very nice way to make snow on a mountain? Now go into that shadow color, a little bit of that light blue, and put that shadow color on the opposite side of the mountain there, so it has the appearance of being a little bit of a shadow. That's not quite dark enough to show up on your television screen there, so put a little bit more blue in it and darken it up just a little bit, so it has the appearance of being a shadow. And keep in mind that I am just barely touching the canvas here. This takes only a whisper. Just barely. Isn't that nice? You'd be surprised at how easy this will be if you give it a chance and a little bit of practice. You do not have to have that so-called artistic talent to make this technique work for you. You do not have to be a particular age. You'd be surprised at what some of our 10-year-olds have been able to come up with after using this technique, and you would also be surprised at what some of our senior citizens have done. I will be happy to later on in the series show you some pictures of some of the work that some of our youngsters and some of our senior citizens have done with this wonderful technique. Isn't that nice? Okay, now take your your 1-inch brush, and this is a clean 1-inch brush now, and let's go up here and try and make a little bit of mist out of this snow-capped mountain here. And we do that just by gently tapping the bottom portion of the mountains there, where the snow comes down to the foothill of the mountain. Just tap it with the ends of the bristles, and eventually you'll see it tend to go into like a mist. Just lightly. Just lightly. Just lightly. Just lightly. Now you might want to get a close look at that. Come on up to the canvas there and take a good look at that. Now just observe this mist here. Maybe we can even, pull some of it down. Just tap it lightly. Tap it lightly. Now maybe this is a foggy area right back in here, and maybe it's the fog is still there after the sun has just come up in the morning. Maybe so. Give it a little bit of extra care there and a little bit of finesse, and you might have a nice misty area. And if it doesn't look so misty, don't worry about it. It's okay. Isn't that nice? Nice way to make mountains. Okay. Now what I think we want to do is to establish some sort of a landline right along here, and perhaps make some trees far off in the distance back there near the base of the mountains. And the way I think we ought to do that is by taking some of our shadow color here and mixing it with a little bit of white and some of this blue shadow color that we used for the mountains. We want a color that's just a little bit darker than that. And we can do that by just fishing around with these colors here until we get something that's just about that color. Just a little bit of darkness here, a little bit of that shadow color ought to bring us to a nice dark color that we can use for our trees in the distance. And